All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. Welcome to Big Facts. My colleague over here has a big smile on his face because he loves disagreeing with me. Anytime he disagrees with me, he's got this massive smile on his face. Justin, how are we feeling after this Eagles game? How are you feeling after a comeback week, bud?
Well, I feel better. I told you before we started making the picks that I was going to leave my passion to the side and use all my ration to make the picks, and it went back to normal because I'm used to being like 12-4 or 13-3. I'm used to that week in and week out, and I'm used to seeing you be 6 games under 500, which you weren't so bad this week. I did beat you, but not by a ton. I'm good, bro. The week of picks was good. I think a lot of the shit shook out exactly how we talked about. I was wrong on a couple, but I was right on most. Mostly, I'm a little bit irritated that Jalen Hurts looks so good. I'm happy, but I'm upset.
So before we get into this Eagles game, which is what we're going to cover first, I have a bad beat story for you.
Uh-oh.
So I'm sitting watching. So my buddy gets a line. We have this game, this Buffalo game the other night. We took them +2, or I took them. I took Pittsburgh +1.5. The line moved to Cleveland game +2.5, moves to +3.5 before the game. My buddy takes them. Baltimore wins this game by 3 points until you see the last play of the game?
I did.
Throwing the ball lateral. All of a sudden, instead of throwing it forward, he gets pushed out the back of the end zone. Instead of a 3-point Baltimore win and covering that 3.5 points, my guy gets a bad beat on the last play of the game for a safety.
How do you bet that game? What terrible teams to bet on? There's no solidity.
Listen, if you're watching the Browns this year and you think that they potentially are better than the Ravens, taking the 3.5, especially because it's plus a field goal and a half, I think is a good bet. 2.5 probably wouldn't touch it, but I think 3.5 was good. That's just a bad beat. But Baltimore is coming on, actually, and they're looking a little better. Lamar Jackson looked like he had a Paul Pierce moment, said it wasn't a Paul Pierce moment. I thought he had to take a shit in the locker room, came back out the way he was walking. And then he comes back in, looks like he's going to scramble, throws a touchdown, wins in the game. Impressive stuff. Back to the Eagles, though. So Jalen Hurts. Been calling for a couple things all year, or at least halfway through the year when we were done with Carson. One of them was Jalen Hurts. The other one, which I thought was just as important, was not having Matt Pryor substitute for Lane Johnson in at right tackle and giving Driscoll, who proved at the beginning of the year he could play for Lane Johnson, a shot, and obviously getting Jason Peters out of the lineup because Herbig had been playing so well for most of the year, and so had Mailata. Your take, now that you saw this play out against the best defense in the league, one of the best teams in the league, one of the best coached teams in the league, where do you stand on the blame for the season in regards to Wentz, Peterson, and to a longer effect, Howie Roseman?
Well, the outcome of this game doesn't change who's at fault. It's equal parts of Howie Roseman, Carson Wentz, and Doug Peterson. They're all responsible for the outcome of this season up until this point. Howie painted us into a corner with the cap, which was always Howie's great with the numbers, and he's great with the numbers, and he hides this and he does that and he squeezes this in there. Well, here the fuck we are, crushed under the cap. Doug bothers me most because Doug is a coach that he has not earned with me the respect he asks for. He wants to be able to run his system and have the players that he needs for his system given to him, which I guess every coach in the world would love, but you don't have that kind of clout. You're not Andy Reid. You're not Bill Belichick. You're not one of these guys that has been in. You're not Sean Payton. You haven't proven a goddamn thing. You caught lightning in a bottle. You had every single move in a season go correctly, and you got lucky countless times in a row to win a Super Bowl. That was not Doug Peterson, the genius. So Doug trying to force the square peg of Carson into the round hole of his offense is irritating to me. But at the same time, I hold Carson accountable for not improving one iota this season. I mean, I looked at Jalen Hurts on Sunday, and the only thought I had in my mind, I texted you, no panic, not a moment of concern, not a second where it looked like he was out of his element. It didn't look like he got worried. It didn't look like he didn't know what to do. Decisive, fast, ball was in his hands, ball was out. It's the exact opposite of what we've seen in Carson Wentz. And I've been saying it for 7 weeks myself. I watched Jalen Hurts in college. I know that Jalen Hurts is a guy that can play in a big moment. Did I think that Jalen Hurts was going to beat the number one defense and a team that was coached as well as the Saints? No. I mean, we talked about it on Sunday. We both said openly that they're probably going to fucking win the game, but we didn't. There was no reason they should have.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely, bro, as happy as I am to have seen a win and see what some of these kids got, because I'm 100% with you. Mailata looked great. Herbig looked great. Driscoll looked great. They weren't all pro offensive linemen.
Sure.
But I saw some steps forward. They weren't Swiss cheese. I saw Jalen Hurts threw a touchdown pass to Alshon Jeffrey. How are we not talking about that? Like, that's the type of shit that I think is important. But even after all of it, after I look at all the good, after I look at all of the potential, I'm irritated more than anything else. And I'm irritated for two reasons. I'm irritated for A, because why the fuck haven't we done this yet? If this were the case, if this was the player you had and you did this 6 weeks ago, we might be competing for a playoff spot actually.
We'd be winning the division.
Word. That's problem A. Problem B with my frustration is I know now that no matter what happens, if they lose the next 3 games by 3 touchdowns, Doug Peterson will be back next year. And it just is what it is. And because of the contract of Carson, I really believe that they're going to try to rerun this. And they're going to try to say, Carson, here's Doug's system, play it.
Those are the
Carson
reports.
just doesn't play Doug's system, bro. That's not the quarterback he is. Doug needs a guy that's got legs. And that's what Carson was in 17, and you don't have that guy anymore.
So this, to me, at this point, because we can talk about Doug, and the blame does fall on him, because as a coach, your job is to not only improve your players, but build your system, a system that fits the talents that your guys have. That being said, what was the discussion during Doug's hire was probably along the lines of, hey, this is the system I run, and Howie needs to go get you the guys that fit this system. Carson, prior to this leg and back injury, fit that because he was able to run more effectively, which opened up the entire offense. They were a little bit more worried about him taking off. They had to stay put on RPOs and option plays. And then after that, they really didn't have to. And now you're sitting with a guy that when he sits in the pocket just isn't a very good quarterback. Jalen Hurts was impressive. One of the biggest takeaways from this, and you just brought up that the offensive line didn't look amazing, but they looked pretty good. Even that being said, pretty good, 0 sacks. Some of that had to do with the offensive line.
Most of it had to do with
Jalen Hurts. Now, I don't know how many times I saw the line not being able to adjust to free blitzers and Jalen Hurts being able to get out of those situations, extend the play for as long as he could possibly extend it, and then if he had to, just throw the football away. I saw Malcolm Jenkins free rush Jalen Hurts 3 times and wasn't able to bring him down. So I was very impressed with the line's ability also to hold the blocks after protection broke down and stay on them and give Jalen Hurts enough time. It felt like they just believed in him a lot more to the point where they knew they had to stay on their blocks. Whereas when Wentz is sitting back in the pocket, it's almost like they give up because they're like, this guy just holds on to the football and sits in the pocket and doesn't get rid of it.
I've got a little bit of a problem with that because to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're bailing the offensive line out with that excuse, is it the same reason why receivers all of a sudden get separation?
No, I don't think I'm not bailing out the offensive line because one of the biggest one of the guys that did that was Matt Pryor. He just wouldn't stay on his blocks for some reason, and Jason Peters
He's just
just
not good. I think
looked
that's
so
all
bad
it
he
is.
wasn't able to stay on his
Yeah,
block.
I just think they were bad linemen. Like I don't think that they stay on their blocks any longer because it's Hurts and not Wentz.
But
I
this
think the execution is what's different.
is
What did we say on Sunday? You remember, bro? When this game's over, we have to see if Doug ran Doug's offense or if Doug changed it for Jalen. Doug ran Doug's offense. That was Doug's offense. There was nothing. I heard 7 people tell me in the last 2 days, oh, they ran end arounds and they ran option plays. That's in the fucking book.
Yeah, they've been doing that. Yeah.
They can't execute them with a stone-footed quarterback that has no athleticism. That is the playbook. Jalen Hurts executed the playbook.
My other thing with that, though, is that, we've seen Carson Wentz all year overthrow guys. We've seen guys running open on the other side of the field. We knew that there was the ability to move the ball on offense, and he just wasn't taking care of it. We knew that if you were able to run the option correctly and we had a running quarterback, it was going to open up lanes for Miles Sanders. But we've also, and this is the issue I have, any Eagles fan out there watching games, even 50% of the way that we watch them to evaluate specific players winning their matchups, knew that Mailata should be at left tackle and Herbig should be at right guard. All of a sudden, Mailata is at left tackle, Herbig's at right guard, and I'm trying to figure out, we knew all season they should be, but they weren't playing. And now all of a sudden Jalen's in and they decide that Herbig's the guy at right guard, which leads me to believe Doug has to see that, but Howie's thick-headed enough to say, hey, I'm paying these guys this money. You have to play them. Do you not think that's going on in the front office?
I mean, it could be. It makes sense. Again, though, show me another team in any sport where a non-sport related general manager, because Howie's not a football guy, Howie's a numbers guy, a non-football rated GM or a non-sport related GM is in control of the roster for game day. I've never seen it before. Mm-hmm. It's never been a thing that's happened before. Mostly because it goes against all fucking sanity and logic. That's number one. Yeah. Number two is because it's plain stupid. I don't necessarily disagree with you. And that's part of my reason why I'm irritated that they won the way that they did. Because if he wants to be here, they'll bring Doug back now, for sure. They see that his system works.
Right.
But my problem is I don't think that Doug Peterson, very similar. When we had the Carson Wentz talk, I said the biggest problem with Carson Wentz is in between his ears. He does not have the mental capacity to be a star in this town. He doesn't have it. It's not about it. Mm-hmm. I don't think Doug Peterson has any want to win with this team anymore. I think it's gone. And I can't blame him. I mean, I could go on for 2.5 hours of all the shit that Howie's done or Jeff has done that have created a mad Doug Peterson with their decisions, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is. I think Doug wants out. I think the reason why Doug didn't push back and start guys like Mailata or Herbig or Driscoll or Jalen Hurts or fucking John Hightower, the reason why is because I think Doug is done and he just listen. He doesn't care. Doesn't matter to him. Who cares what the record is? Doesn't matter if we make the playoffs. This is your guys' thing. I have no say. I'm just going to follow along. Mm-hmm. And I think that has destroyed in Doug Peterson all the want he had to be successful in Philadelphia. Because how doesn't it? When you have somebody fit you into a box, it's going to happen.
There's got to be something to this. I know. So we've talked about, and I'm not bringing up like Orlando Scandrick as being like this good guy, right? But we've had 2 guys leave at this point that basically said, hey, there's a weasel upstairs and it's not 2017 anymore. I don't know if you saw this. I was going through Instagram the other day and Will Parks was kind of going off on a couple fans in a very immature way. Kind of makes me think he's got a little something wrong. But when there's guys like that and it's repeatedly happening, the complaints about it's not 2017 anymore, that goes along the line and says to me, hey, there's a guy upstairs that still thinks that the guys that he paid can get the job done. And it's obvious when we're on the practice field that they can't. And it's standing out in a way where we're 3 years removed. In the same way that we talk about Carson Wentz and people bring up these arguments, oh, he was MVP in 2017. Man, this was almost 4 years ago at this point. And
real quick, he wasn't. He wasn't. Tom Brady was.
Regardless.
Tom Gurley was second. No matter what happened, that's going to be what it was.
Yeah. But the level of play, regardless, is something that the fans keep going back to here.
Oh, for sure.
And the players that are leaving, Will Parks very clearly thought that he was the best safety on this team and he wasn't getting any playing time. They were like, hey, go. There's no playing time for you here. Go somewhere else. And he's like, dude, like he might be the best. I'm not overly impressed with McLeod or Jalen Mills this year. Are you at the safety position?
Not really, but Will Parks is Will Parks.
Okay. So a couple other things. The Eagles averaged 4.5 points per half throughout the season. They scored 17 points in the first half. Not only that,
fucking bad, dude.
Not only that, the ability to sustain drives this game. They won the time of possession against a good running football team with a gadget player at quarterback who also picks up a lot of first downs. Michael Thomas, who's a first down machine. Alvin Kamara in the backfield. They win the time of possession by a minute. He's sustaining drives, 8 to 10 minute drives, even when they're not scoring the football, which is huge when you're playing a team like the Saints. No sacks, 21 first downs, 11 of them came on the ground. They had 413 total yards, Justin, 2 for 3 in the red zone, and had 246 rushing yards between Sanders and Hurts. So people look at this stat line and they say, well, I'm not blown away by Jalen Hurts' ability to pass the football. He had something like 167 yards. He was around 60% completion. But he was in duress a good portion of the day. He was finding the open guy. He was taking off when he had to. I thought he made a couple bad reads on options, but this is the guy's first start beating the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really beat him up on reads on options either because you got to understand he's a guy that's coming into this town after Carson Wentz. He is going to be probably the post-Carson Wentz quarterback. And Carson was too aggressive. He tore his knee, comes back the next year, is too aggressive, breaks his back. And now he's a shell of the same player. And Jalen Hurts probably – I think the bad plays I saw from him were stuffing the ball into Miles' gut when he shouldn't have. He should have kept it. Not to say that this kid is afraid of running ever. I mean, how many times do we watch him tuck his shoulder and just fucking take out a linebacker for a first down? Right. But he made rookie mistakes, which I wouldn't even stretch to call them mistakes. He just failed to execute because – this was his first real action that he was game planned for.
Yeah.
But overall, dude, I mean, I fucking told you so. That's how I feel right now.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be the arrogant prick of the party, but I fucking told you so. I've been saying for months now that Jalen Hurts is a player that can handle the moment. I've been saying for months now that if Doug's system is what's going to exist, Jalen Hurts can run it better. I've been saying for months now, if your offensive line is that big of a problem, Jalen Hurts has the scramble ability to make it look less of a problem. I've been saying it for months now. I've been saying all of this shit for months. And I just want to say I fucking told you so.
No
this
sacks.
Is the reason why it was important. 0 sacks, Aaron. That number right there. That number.
Tells you everything.
That game. Watch the first 9 minutes of that football game. Not even the whole first quarter. Watch the first 9 minutes so you can see their entire first drive, right? Watch that game and tell me that you thought it would end in 0 sacks. And then follow up and tell me that it was the offensive line. Because it wasn't. The offensive line made it through, but they were not good, dude. They just weren't good.
Yeah, and the other thing, not only was there 0 sacks, but you're going into this game as a team that gives up the most in the league, and you're playing a team that since week 9 has the most in the league. So this was like these teams are averaging 4, 5, 6 sacks every single game, and we're sitting here all year blaming the offensive line. And we're saying, oh, well, Carson Wentz does hold on to the ball a little bit, but the offensive line's been – when I watch Mailata, I don't see a problem at all. When I watch Jason Kelsey, I don't see a problem at all. Lane Johnson's never been a problem, and Herbig basically has given up 1 or no sacks all year. So when I put the whole picture together, I'm like, yeah, well, they've been a problem when Jason Peters is in, and they've been a problem when Matt Pryor's in. But even so, if those guys are in the other day, there's maybe only 1 or 2 sacks at most, which is average for almost any NFL football game, 1 sack. I mean, Aaron Rodgers gets sacked 1 time per game.
Yeah, so, I mean, the biggest thing though, bro, that avoided it was watching him dictate the pocket. It was when Mailata got over leveraged to the right, he slid left. When Herbig got over leveraged or overpowered, he would move up in the pocket as Herbig moved him out of the pocket. There was unison.
Yeah.
There was understanding. There was execution. It wasn't perfection. It was far from perfection, but it was, I understand where you are and what the play is. And that's important to understand, dude. Like, this is why I don't care if they lose out the rest of the season. I know with what I saw on Sunday, Jalen Hurts is not going to be a problem. He's not going to be an issue. He will be able to develop and become a good to really good quarterback in this league. If you come into next season and Carson Wentz is your starter in Philadelphia, burn the building to the ground. It's a waste of a year. There's no point in being here. Why did we come here?
Now, let's talk about the defense for a second, because one of my biggest complaints, because at the end of the game, you have to remember, one of the reasons that team almost got back in the game was, I think, Avonte Maddox went out, Darius Slay went out, and then I think Rodney McLeod also went out. So we had –
Bro, how about real quick before you finish your point right there, Darius Slay goes down, who's what we'd say the 6th or maybe 5th or 6th best corner in the league?
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
Darius Slay goes down, who's not even a top 3 corner, but he's that good here. Darius Slay goes down, and your entire secondary forgets how to play football.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking unbelievable.
We were talking about this the other day, and the defense played incredible up until pretty much the 4th quarter of this game and still ended up holding on to win. But anybody who was down on Darius Slay after Metcalf and then Devontae Adams shouldn't have been, because when you actually watch these, I know they put up numbers, I know they scored, but when you watch these football games, he didn't really get beat by these guys. He just got out-muscled at the point of attack by these guys.
He's undersized, and he's not Jalen Ramsey, right? You got to understand that. This isn't Darrelle Revis. This isn't Jalen Ramsey. This isn't the guy that shuts down everybody.
Yeah, he's on their ass now. I mean, he's on their ass.
He does the best that he can do. But the best that he can do is still that of a what is it?
I think he's about 5th in the league. He's about 5'11".
He's a 5'11", 210-pound corner, bro. He's not that. He doesn't give the. He's not Brandon Browner, right? That 1 year in Seattle, who's 6'3" and was a fucking. I don't know if he was juiced or what it was.
But he's seasoned and he plays really well. He's always on. I love
the contract. He gives you a ton, right? He gives you everything, but he's not Jalen Ramsey. And again, I agree with you. That gets left out. I expect Jalen Ramsey to stop 10 and 177 from DK Metcalf.
Sure.
I expect my Darius Slay corner, the second level of the top of the echelons. I expect Darius Slay to stop touchdowns. That's what he's there for. Break up the pass. Do what you got to do. Stop a touchdown. Make a sure-handed tackle. Don't let him blow by you. Stop the touchdown. And he did that for the most part.
Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, we got, and I was complaining about this to you the other day, we got an appearance from Jonathan Hargrave, who looked like a completely different player yesterday for some reason, ended up with 2 sacks right next to Fletcher Cox, who I think had 1. That defensive line, look, Barnett's probably not going to be here. I think his contract that he's due for a signing this coming year, I don't think he's going to be here next year. Sweat's going to be just fine over there. I think
Josh Sweat.
He has 6 sacks already this year. He has more than I think anybody else on the line except for Brandon Graham. Graham's going to be due for something. I think he signed a 1 year, not a 2 year with us, right? Was
Graham?
it 2?
No, I think Graham's under contract until the end of 22.
Okay. So we got a bigger contract, so he'll be back. We should be okay on the defensive line. Alex Singleton's been a nice surprise at linebacker. We still need help at linebacker, obviously, but he's been
Duke Riley's not doing it for you, but Alex Singleton looked okay.
Yeah. So going into this draft, and this is one of the things we talked about, having to take a look at Jalen Hurts, see what he provides to you. Would you agree that linebacker, safety, offensive line depth, wide receiver are the biggest needs for this football team? You have to remember, they're not going to be able to make, unless they start trading some guys.
You're asking me to project forward that either Jalen Hurts shows out and comes up, or Carson Wentz comes back, I guess.
Yeah, they're at this point, I don't see them.
You're saying quarterback's not a problem in this world.
I'm not saying it's not a problem. I don't see them taking a first round or a second round pick next year if Jalen Hurts performs this well.
Listen, man, this is not an easy feat to pull off. So please understand when I say this, it's not because it's easy. This is difficult to make happen. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles and I lose out and I get the 7th or 8th pick, right? If I'm in the top 10, if it's me, I am going to try to find a way to get a 2nd and a 3rd round draft pick for Carson Wentz, which I think is dirt cheap for a guy that can be a franchise quarterback who's already signed. You can.
I don't think they get anything back for Wentz, but go ahead.
You can spin it to be a positive. And honestly, the capital you get back for Wentz doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you get for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
You get Carson Wentz out of the building, and you're at the 7th or the 8th spot. If you only have to give up a future 3rd and 4th round draft pick along with the number 8 to get to number 2 and get Justin Fields, I still do it. Not because I don't believe that Jalen Hurts can be successful here. I believe he can be successful. I look at Jalen Hurts and all of his detractors, and I see a quarterback in Justin Fields that has all the same positives with none of the detractors. And to me, if I'm going to make a commitment to moving forward on a safety, a linebacker, another wide receiver, we have Miles Sanders who's young. If I'm going to commit to a young group, I need the young group. Tori, I don't disagree. I agree with you. I think it's possible that Justin Fields goes 1 and Trevor Lawrence goes 2. I don't think that that's crazy. What I'm saying though is I wouldn't say no. Your question to me is need. Regardless of how this season ends, if you can get Justin Fields, that's your biggest need, period. Hard stop. So if it's possible, that's the biggest need. If we're looking past the possibility of getting up in the draft this year, then yeah, I go linebackers number 1. I don't disagree that Alex Singleton's been good, but he's a CFL player. He doesn't fucking know the variety of NFL offenses.
Limited.
Right. When we get to the playoffs, that's not the Mike. That's all I'm saying. He's not the guy. Linebackers number 1. To me, I think you need another wide receiver before you need anything else on offense right now. Mailata looks good. Herbig looks good. Everybody forgets that Andre Dillard is still a part of this team. Jack Driscoll. They have young depth. We don't know about a lot of it, but they've got that. The O-line doesn't concern me quite yet. You need a linebacker, you need a wide receiver, and then you need secondary. And I'm going to use that word, not safety. You need secondary because you do need a safety at least. But you also could use somebody behind Rodney McLeod because Rodney McLeod's getting older. And again, Darius Slay is our starting corner.
Now,
you can still use 2 more.
I think that over the next couple games, Jalen Reagor is going to show you that he can be a number 2. I really do think that. I think with Hurts in the game, they're going to start using him a little more. They used him on an end around last week. He caught, I think, 4 or 5 passes on 8 targets, had like 60 yards or something like that. But I think the field's going to open up for him with Hurts at quarterback. Fulgham got almost no playing time last week, which is like still mind-boggling. I know Alshon was in the game, caught a touchdown pass, hell froze over. That's great. You got to figure out your wide receiver situation for next year so you know if you need to take one in the first or if you can wait till the 2nd or 3rd round. If Fulgham can be a number 1 or number 2 and Reagor can be a number 1 or number 2, you have to find that out because maybe one of them is just a slot guy. Maybe Reagor ends up being a slot guy. So you have to figure out, am I going linebacker in the first round? Do I need a wide receiver in the first round? And by the way, glad they beat the Saints. Hurts was impressive. This kills me. as far as draft stock. I would hate for them to go on a run right now and rattle off like 2 out of these 3 or 4 last games. I think they were in a position to pick 6th before they beat the Saints, and this is going to start dropping them into that 9, 10, 11 category, which makes it harder to move up if we do want to get a guy like Fields, which I don't think Jacksonville's going to budge from number 2 if they get it. That's their guy. I don't think you can throw the house at Jacksonville for Justin Fields regardless. Jamar Chase, I know is going to be hard to pass up. Who knows at 11 or 12 if he's going to be there, depending on how the board falls. But we'll see what happens. Any last thoughts just before we take a break, and we're going to get into some NBA basketball, and also real quick talk about something you brought up as far as the MVP discussion.
Yeah, real quick on the MVP discussion. I think it's go. I've had a lot of long thought last night. I'm gonna pick him right now. I'm not gonna say that it's possible. I'm gonna pick him. I think that Josh Allen is your MVP this year, and here's why. When I look at what's more than likely to happen, the Bills should win out, which would put them at 13-3, right?
Yeah.
When I look at Patrick Mahomes and potentially going 15-1, I'm like, it's Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, and yeah, okay, they did. That seems like them. If you came to me at the beginning of the season and said that Josh Allen was going to be a top 5 quarterback via most statistics and lead the Buffalo Bills to 13-3, I would have told you that you were fucking crazy. But he did it, and he's done it impressively, and he's shown you week in and week out what he can accomplish and how good he truly is. I don't know that I would, given the choice between anybody else, I don't know that I take anybody over Josh Allen right now to start my franchise. I mean, he's been...
You mean aside from Pat Mahomes?
Right. Well, yeah, correct, because Pat Mahomes is Josh Allen plus everything else. I think that he's just shown you that he's the real fucking deal, dude. And I think that's important. I think that while you and I both agree, if Patrick Mahomes goes 15-1, he's the MVP, period. He's the baby of the NFL. This is how it works. I agree with you. I don't give a fuck, though, personally. If he goes 15-1, that means nothing to me. Josh Allen going 13-3 in Buffalo is far more impressive. His QB rating is solid. He does not turn the ball over like a lot of young mobile quarterbacks like him do. And he's not – listen, I know that Stephon Diggs is a great receiver. I don't want to take that away from Stephon Diggs. But this guy's – it's not fucking Devontae Adams. It's not – it's not Julio Jones. You know,
we talked about this though, real quick. Let me just interrupt you. So I agree with you that if Josh Allen can bring the Bills to 13-3, I think he would be 2nd or 3rd personally. And we've talked about this about value, and I do still think that Aaron Rodgers is more valuable. Aside from statistics, which he's 1st in touchdown pass, he's ranked over Josh Allen in all passing categories. Josh Allen has legs though, and he does stuff with his legs, rushing the football, scoring touchdowns.
And Aaron Rodgers has more help, bro. We can't deny that. Aaron Rodgers is a better line.
I don't buy that because I think that who's the Packers' number 2 wide receiver? You don't know, right? You don't know. Who's the Bills?
I don't know.
You have to. It's Cole Beasley.
Oh no, I forget that Cole Beasley plays in the league.
Well, you shouldn't because he has 833 yards and 4 touchdowns.
But stop. Take your fucking.
Hold on. Let me finish my point. Stephon Diggs. We talked about this yesterday, and we act like there's this massive gap between Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs, and there's just not. This year, Stephon Diggs is 1st in receptions and 2nd in receiving yards. A lot of that has to do with Josh Allen, but we can't act like he was a scrub.
It's such a stupid argument. Josh Allen makes Stephon Diggs' numbers what they are. Number one, 1st and foremost, right? Second of all,
with Kirk Cousins.
I don't give a fuck about what the 2nd receiver is. Cole Beasley's obviously better than the guy that we can't name. But Aaron Rodgers has a better running back, right? By far. By far.
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers has a significantly
They don't run the ball.
Aaron Rodgers has a significantly better, much more seasoned and experienced offensive line than what Josh Allen has in Buffalo.
Yeah.
The entirety of the offense around Aaron Rodgers is better than Josh Allen's. You can point to Stephon Diggs, which we can just nix off with Devontae Adams because they're going to provide close to the same. I think Devontae's more.
Yeah,
and you can give Buffalo Cole Beasley, but then I can give you 3 starting tackles, a running back, and Aaron Rodgers 15 years of playing football. It's less impressive. He does not mean as much.
40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions is
for the love of fuck. Are we moving on to basketball and taking a break? I can't argue.
We'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll talk Sixers and the NBA.
All right, bud.
All right, we are back. So, Justin, Sixers played last night. Season starts the day before Christmas, which by my count is about a week away. Some premier matchups coming up. We've talked a little bit about the NBA. We've talked a lot about the Sixers. Last night, some pretty good showing from the Sixers. I think Ben Simmons had 10 points last night. Shake Milton got 19 points and played a big role in the offense in just 23 minutes. Tyrese Maxey came in the fourth quarter and gave them a spark with a quick 8 points. And saw just a couple plays. Dwight Howard setting some good screens for Seth Curry, things of that nature that just looked like a more developed offense with the pieces added and the coaching staff. Expectations for the Sixers. And let's also get into who we think is going to have the best shot at winning an MVP this year and what the scope of the NBA looks like.
Rookie of the year, Torrey. I'm calling for it now. I think he could be legitimately. I think he could be the 6th man of the year this year. He does look legit. So Sixers wise, I mean, this is what Doc Rivers was supposed to bring. I'm happy that I'm getting what I'm supposed to be getting right now. I'm happy that I'm able to see did Ben finally shoot? I can't. I'm happy to see a real head coach know how to manage players.
Yeah.
I was glad to see the type of guy that they had. I'm glad to see Shake perform. See, there's so many. I really sat down the last couple of days trying to figure out what this team is and what to expect. I don't even know, man. Like, there's 11 outcomes that this team can have, whether it be they package some of these cats together and go get another superstar, whether it be they kind of lay back and develop some of these guys and what do these guys become. I really don't know. For the first time in a long time, I don't know in a good way. Like, I didn't know when Brett Brown was going to fail. I knew that he would. I just didn't know when he would. Now it's like I don't really know which end could be achieved, and it's a fun thing. They looked like they had a good time. There were good basketball decisions made. There wasn't a lot of sloppy play. It's impressive, and I'm happy about it. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm writing down right now, and I should have done this before, but it's the team is a very deep team, and it's exciting because when you take a look at the roster, you don't know exactly how the second unit's going to fill out because you're not, at this point, I don't think they're sure if they're going to want Shake to start, if they're going to want to bring him in with the second unit, if they're going to want to put Seth Curry in the second unit and put Shake in at point guard, whatever they do. But at this point, your second unit is one of the strongest in the NBA, and we know how much that plays into the success of a team, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs. So you're going to be able to play almost a full 10 guys going through the regular season and the playoffs. Doc Rivers has praised, first of all, the camp that Mike Scott's had. And Mike Scott's always been a pretty spark and a value player and a high energy guy for us. And I'm not even including like guys like Furkan Korkmaz, anybody like Isaiah Joe or Paul Reed that we drafted in these lineups. But it should be something along the lines of Ben, Seth, Toby, Green, and Embiid, because you want Seth in there to give everyone room to operate when Ben's on the floor since he hasn't shot yet. So it's Ben, Curry, Toby, Danny Green, Embiid. Toby will probably play more of a power forward position, maybe play small forward, depending on how you want to use everybody. And then you got Shake, Milton, Maxey, Thibault, Mike Scott, and Dwight Howard. This is a full starting lineup and second unit that can beat any other team's starting lineup and second unit. And also the rotations are going to change. You have so much time to give these guys breathers if they perform up to expectations. It's going to be fun to watch. And I
disagree with your starting five entirely. Your starting five is going to be Ben, Curry, Matisse at the 3, Toby at the 4, and Joe at the 5. You said Danny
entirely. You disagree with one player.
You said Danny Green, right? And the reason why, there's a reason for that. Danny Green, I believe Doc Rivers is going to use very similarly to how Frank Vogel just used him in LA. I don't think he's going to be a focal point. I don't think he's going to be counted on to be JJ Redick, but he's going to play a 3-2 wing defender. I don't think you can put him out there with Toby, who sometimes in overmatched situations might need to switch out. Mm-hmm. But no, dude, the rotation's real. That's the part that people, I think, aren't really considering. Without talking about Isaiah Joe, who a couple of guys talked about them drafting at the back end of the first round, not the second round where they got him.
Yeah.
They have an unbelievable amount of depth. I think that Doc has kind of built a roster where you've got one of 5 or 6 guys that could be the hot hand that night. And I think that's part of what he wanted to build. That 2-3, that swing guard forward, he's got 4 of them. And I think that's Matisse. Danny Green can play both of those. Seth Curry's more of a combo guard. He can't play the 3. But you've got a lot of depth there, bro. And you got a kid that could be a dominant player, especially playing against second teams in the first round. And if Tyrese Maxey is the focal point of the offense of your second team, I think you're going to be all right. Like, I really believe this team could win in a 77-game season. I think this team could win 55 games.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch. And just watching Maxey on the floor last night, he knows how to work his way through traffic. He's quick on the floor. He's definitely that spark of energy that he showed you can be in college. I think it's going to translate well to the NBA. You had an interesting take on MVP when we were just discussing it before we came on today. I want you to go over that. Who is the favorite? Let's take, first of all, and I don't think he's going to win this year anyway. It's probably going to be second or third because usually even if he has the best year out of anybody, they put him second or third. So let's take LeBron out of the equation. Who's got your best shot, in your opinion, to win MVP this year, and who could be a dark horse for your MVP this year?
So I think it's a 2-horse race in the top, right? I think it's I think it's Giannis every year because he's so dominant and everybody loves him. And
Yeah.
fuck Giannis. Anyway,
By the way, Matt, to be honest, the other day signed with the Bucks, 5 years, $225 million. He'll be staying there for the time.
He'll get to never win a title for the most of his dominant career. Fuck that guy. Anyway, Giannis gets overpraised and overvalued and overrated, and I don't like Giannis as a player. I don't want anything to do with him. I don't want a guy that's built like him. I don't like Giannis. But Giannis is now all alone in Milwaukee. Drew Holiday's not a second option. Giannis is all he's got. So Giannis is probably going to put up a stupid stat line of 36 and a half, 11 and a half rebounds and like 6 assists or something dumb. And he's going to look up there because, again, he's the NBA's new face. But to me, bro, I like Luka. If I'm looking at I went over our top 5 lists and remembered back to the reasons why I re-listened to that episode. And Luka, to me, is probably going to be the most consequential player on his roster. Yeah. I don't think that it's close. I think LeBron and Luka are kind of as important as each other. My dark horse, though, is one that we talked about right before we got on here. So I had heard a statement made last night on one of the shows on the Fanatic, Beers with Bob, and I believe it was Jamie Lynch that made it. I don't know if it was Jamie Lynch or Sal Chunas. I don't remember who is on that show with him. Tori, I love Damian Lillard. That's not going to happen. They don't like it. So he said, whichever one this was, said that if Denver is the first seed in the West, dark horse is Steph. I can't get down with that one either. I'm sorry. My dark horse makes a little bit more sense than Steph Curry. He said that if Denver makes the finals and either makes it or wins the title and is the first seed in the West and they're a dominant team, that the MVP of that team would have to be Jamal Murray. And it's because guards win and bigs don't win MVPs. Fuck all that, all right? Nikola Jokic isn't a big, all right? Everybody understand this is a guy that is probably going to average a triple-double next year from the 5. Not 6'11" Ben Simmons doing it from the point guard. 6'8" fucking LeBron James doing it from the point guard. No. We're talking about a 7-foot center averaging a triple-double. That is probable. Mm-hmm. And to me, I don't give a fuck where they end. If Nikola Jokic averages anything more than 8 assists a game, along with, let's call it 28 points and 12 boards, right? That's the MVP of the league. If he finds a way to average a triple-double, it's got to be him.
So there's someone this year that, for whatever reason, when we are having these discussions, and I think Luke is going to run away with this, by the way. I don't think it's going to be close. I think that's the NBA's next baby. They've been pushing the narrative already. They want to find someone to take this league over after LeBron. So I think it's going to be Luka. He's going to average close to a triple-double. And as we discussed, I think a week or two ago, I like the Mavs as like the second or third best record in the league this year, depending on health, obviously. We're forgetting about Kevin Durant, and I know you don't like him coming off this injury. Let's put this stuff into perspective real quick. This is a guy that, regardless of, let's say he loses a little bit.
His Achilles. You keep say as many good things as you want. All I got to say back, Achilles.
That's fine.
Achilles. He's built like Jack Skellington. Okay. We have no idea what this injury is going to do.
I do. He's going to be fine. He's one of the best offensive players of all time, and he's 6'11", and you can't guard his shot because he shoots from over his head.
And if he can't fucking shoot, he's
Let me make my point, okay? So, barring another injury, we're in Brooklyn. We are obviously the number one option on our team. We are a year removed from injury, in which everyone's been talking shit about my move to the Brooklyn Nets from the Golden State Warriors. My 2 rings mean absolutely nothing to anybody that watches NBA basketball, correct? Because he went to the Golden State Warriors.
They don't mean anything.
They don't, and I agree with you. So this guy is a guy that averages 30 points a game, has his whole career. He's going to go over to Brooklyn. He's playing with his guy. If Brooklyn wants to be a top 3 seed or a top 2 seed in the East, Kevin Durant's going to have to play at an MVP level. I think Kevin Durant can come back, average 30 points a game,
You're
Get
out
a
of your
top 2
fucking
seed.
mind. How the fuck, beyond the injury that you think is just going to go away, you're playing with the most selfish, hated teammate of stars in this era. Kyrie is the worst teammate of this era. That's I don't give a fuck how many times they hang out, how good of friends they are. I don't care.
Well, you're
This
still
is
going to put up the
basketball.
same numbers.
You cannot win if you don't pass the ball. Kyrie Irving doesn't pass the ball. And Kevin Durant, I will bet, dude, I might bet the fucking house. Kevin Durant's not averaging 30 points a game this year. It's physically impossible. There is no way.
I will bet. Well, so he's a career like 28 points per game guy. I will bet the house that he averages at least 27, 28 or more. What do you think he's going to average? 25?
So 27 and 28 are, first of all, two very different numbers, but you said 30.
I will guarantee that he'll average more than his career average this year.
Which is what? What's his career average?
Find out. Because you're telling me he's not going to be the same player coming off injury. I'm telling you,
not.
Points per
He
game.
isn't the same player. I'm not telling you what he's going to be. I'm telling you what he is. He's not the same player.
For his career, he's a 27 point per game guy. He's going to be right there. He's going to average more than that. He's not going to average 26. There's no way. He's averaged 27 points per games on teams with Russell Westbrook and James Harden, and then also Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You think
first of all, that was before James Harden was anybody. Number one. Number two,
Russell man of the year.
Number two, Russell Westbrook can't do anything to any star player to stop him from scoring. James Harden,
well, he can because he's a ball hog and he shoots when he shouldn't.
And Kevin Durant commanded the ball then. Kevin Durant is coming off an Achilles injury. Kyrie Irving thinks he's the man. That's the truth, bro. That's just
I will bet you that he averages 27 or more. If you think he's going to take a step back, you would say under 27. I'm telling you it's going to be 27 or more.
We have a whole season to figure out what you're going to give me because you're wrong. He's not. How about let's do this for me real fast.
Okay.
Show me a player that had his injury that wasn't affected.
Well, I haven't researched it, but
it's an Achilles tear, bro.
Yeah, probably not many.
Hey, did Ryan Howard come back the same in baseball?
Ryan Howard was an overweight.
Oh, no, so Ryan Howard didn't. How about in football? Did Jason Peters come back the same?
You're talking about 300-pound guy.
Lineman. So how about Derrick Rose, who didn't even rupture his Achilles? He tore an ACL, which is a standard every day, every year injury.
22 point per game guy. No, he was never the same. No, but he's not 6'11" though.
He's not built like Jack Skellington either. That's the problem. You don't know how weak. How is Kevin Durant's first consequential injury in Achilles? That's concerning. That's concerning to the body that guy has. If the Achilles is the first injury at 30 years old, what is the big one at 34?
We are going to watch Kevin Durant this year, and he's not going to look one iota different than what he's looked his whole career. I would argue that he'll probably look better. I think that. So you got to remember, he tore his.
Kevin Durant is your dark horse MVP. To get back to the original statement.
Yes.
You're out of your fucking mind, dude.
Luka's gonna win it. I like Tori saying Steph Curry.
Wait a second. So your dark horse in this world, in this fantasy that you've built. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be the second or third seed in the East, which would make them the fourth, fifth, or sixth best team in the league. And that's your dark horse for the MVP?
Yes. Coming off injury, yes, that's my dark horse. This guy, every time you laugh, Justin, you get proven wrong because we take these and then we make clips at the end of the year.
Where are they?
You're always so confident.
You about you being wrong, and you being wrong.
Like that, you're always wrong.
You're wrong, bro. How the fuck the world you're building doesn't even make sense. In order for you to be right, the Brooklyn Nets would not only need to be the first seed in the East, they would need to be the second.
They'd be the second or third.
The Nets would need to be the first seed in the East, which would mean they're second or third.
Why would they need to be the first seed?
For the world that you just built about Kevin Durant being the MVP, for that to make sense, the Nets would have to be first in the East because it would put them second or third in the league, right? So you already are telling me that Kevin Durant,
So
he
hold
wouldn't
on.
deserve it anyway.
Since when does the team have to be first or second in the
Come on.
league for the guy to win MVP?
Come on.
Russell Westbrook's gotten it. James Harden's gotten it. They weren't first or second in the league those years.
James Harden's Houston Rockets were second or third in the West every time he won the MVP.
Okay, so if they're second or third in the East, why wouldn't he be able to win MVP?
Because the first three teams in the East aren't even half as good as the first two teams in the West. So it puts you from
everybody ran East. Everybody ran East after LeBron got there. So the East is still a competitive conference.
No, the East is still weak, bro. Denver is still a better team than most teams in the Eastern Conference, right? I'm not even going to wait for your answer.
Yeah, sure.
Houston, right now, we know Houston's terrible. Houston is still a better team than most teams in the East. The best team in the East, Milwaukee got weaker. The East did not get stronger. I know that you think it did, and it looks like it did on the surface. It's not true. Portland got better. Houston stayed the same, which is pretty good. Denver got better. Utah got better.
The Lakers dominance is what makes the West look so good. That's not true. That's not true. There's some good teams.
LeBron, stop it. LeBron dominated. This is not the Lakers. The Lakers are nothing without LeBron James.
By the way, is there a chance this year that AD can win an MVP over LeBron James?
I think that a Lakers not going to win another MVP until LeBron retires because they won't give him another one.
Fair point. Fair enough.
And to me, the way that this season looks like it's about to play out, I believe that LeBron James will carry the stat line necessary to win MVP. But I agree with what you said in the beginning of this. They just won't give him another one.
No, Luka's their next baby. Surprise team for you anywhere, in either conference. All right, you already know mine.
Yeah. You know what, dude? I'm gonna go Phoenix, and I know it's less of a surprise because of the Chris Paul trade and some notoriety came and that type of shit. But I think Phoenix is a team that could make some noise. I don't say they're not gonna unseat the Lakers. They're probably not even good enough to beat the Clippers, but they're good. That's a team I could see being the next Denver. I could see that being Phoenix.
Yeah, obviously mine, and I'll keep talking about it, and I'll nail it into your brain because they will make the playoffs this year, even in New Orleans. Pelicans have two guys that are going to average over 20 points per game, Zion and Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's going to average closer to 25. Zion's going to average probably around 22. They're both going to shoot around 60%. That's a pretty lethal duo. They also have depth, so you're starting.
Please wait a second. You think that a shoot first forward guard combo, that weird player that Brandon Ingram has turned into, a little bit like Kevin Durant, is going to shoot 60% from the field?
Close to it. Yeah, he shot 55% last year.
That's 5 points, bro. That's 5 points off. 68 is not 70.
Okay. So he's going to shoot 55%. Okay.
That's better. 60% is an accolade. Big men shoot 60%. You can't tell me that a fucking shoot first guard is going to average 60% from the field. If that's the truth, then Brandon Ingram's your MVP because he's going to score 35 points a game.
All right, he's going to shoot close to 50% from the field. Regardless, guards don't really do that. If Kyra Lewis Jr., he's a small forward. If Kyra Lewis Jr. ends up being the guy that they think they drafted him to be, you have to also remember the Pelicans have a ton of first-round picks. So any given time that they're offered any type of scenario where they might be able to bring a third guy in that can be that, just make their big three with Zion, Ingram, whoever that happens to be, they have the room to pull the trigger. They brought in Steven Adams and Jackson Hayes, so they have a center for their first and second unit. I'm not high on Lonzo or Josh Hart. I know J.J. Redick's getting older, but at any given time, those guys can be packaged together and shipped off to create a big three for the Pelicans. They don't have to have that big three to make the playoffs this year because I think they will, but they can do it at any given point. I think they're a 6-7 seed in the West this year.
I don't necessarily disagree with you as a team. I just think that you are so high on these guys for a reason I can't understand. Like, listen, I get it. Zion.
Efficient.
Zion dunks real hard and is a little bit flashy. Look, see, even your boy's telling you it's not gonna happen.
He argues with me about everything. It doesn't matter.
At least you have other people other than me in your life that are right while you're wrong.
I don't know about that.
I don't see what you see in their players, dog. I don't see it. Zion is not a guy that makes me go, wow. Zion's a guy that makes me go.
You watch him last year?
You done? Zion's a guy that makes me go, ah, shit, when are you going to get hurt? Brandon Ingram is not a guy that makes me go, oh, look, that's Kevin Durant. It's a guy that makes me go, hey, he could be Kevin Durant, but I'm not sure. Jackson Hayes is unimpressive. Steven Adams is a $30 million fill to the cap. There's nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing impressive, but there's nothing that makes me go, wow. I agree with you, a 6 or a 7 seed in the West. I'm with you 100%. I just don't see them as highly as you see them.
So I think this is all based on how Zion does, right? So Zion last year, just to put it out there, in 24, he only played 24 games last year.
Dick, bro. Tell him, though. Give him the stroke. Let him know how good he was.
22.5 points, 58% field goal, 43% from three, and 6 rebounds a game. I think he's going to improve on all of those, given more playing time, obviously, and we'll see how the Pelicans do. Justin, closing thoughts on anything you'd wish to discuss, whether it be NBA basketball or whether it be the Eagles' upcoming game?
Not particularly. I mean, the Eagles' upcoming game, is it Arizona this week?
It's Arizona.
Another game that they shouldn't, but they could win. We'll get into that on Sunday. As for basketball, we got one more week left before we officially start the season. So next week we'll definitely cover that and get more into it. I don't got a lot, man. Kevin Durant is not an MVP. He's not going to look like the same player.
So
It's again, until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to go with statistics and history.
History tells you he was an MVP.
That's past tense. We're talking about today. We agree Luka is probably going to be the guy that runs away with the MVP this year. Yeah, man, not a lot, dude. There's a lot of shit coming down. Basketball starting, baseball we got to start getting into. It was I think he'll look that bad, Tori. No, and let me just real quick end this for Kevin Durant. I'm not saying that Kevin Durant is going to look like fucking Draymond Green. I don't mean to make it sound that bad, but I just think that there's going to be a layoff because I have no reason to see otherwise. I hope I'm proven wrong because Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players in the NBA. But no, I mean, tune in Sunday. I did better in picks this week. No brown bag.
Yeah.
Aaron did okay enough. I can't make him wear the brown bag. So hopefully next week.
Yeah, I think it was 9-5.
After he has a stinker next week, then we'll get Aaron with the brown bag. But yeah, no, man, that's about it. We're gonna get snowed the fuck in. I don't know if you're still up here, but we're about to get crushed today.
I'm up here.
And my kids is looking forward to it.
So Sixers home opener will be next Wednesday. A week from today, they play the Washington Wizards, who just made a trade for Russell Westbrook. Should be a fun game to watch. I'm not high on the Wizards, obviously, but it is fun to watch Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. We'll see how that experiment works out. Eagles game against the Cardinals, we will talk about Sunday at 10 or 11 a.m. We will let you guys know. Thank you guys for watching, continuing to watch, following us on all our pages at Big Facts. And we will see you guys on Sunday with our picks. If you've bet with us for the last couple weeks, at least one of us, you've won pretty big. So we'll give you the picks on Sunday. Jeff will be on with us. Just, you have a good rest of your day, and thank you guys for watching.
You too, brother.